Okay, so hi, welcome to the Soul Mastery Retreats. Today I'm gonna introduce you to one of my new friends. It was actually very exciting. We started talking and it was like so connective. So I'm super excited to have her here today. But before we dive in, I want to take a moment to center you with us in this moment right now. And we do so by closing your eyes. So close your eyes and take a nice deep breath in through your nose. And nice and slowly out through your mouth. Relax your face, relax your jaw, relax your tongue. Another nice deep breath in through your nose and nice and slowly out through your mouth. Relax your shoulders, relax your belly, your stomach. Last breath in through your nose and slowly out through your mouth. Relax your legs, relax your feet, your hands, your arms. And then put both of your hands on your heart and connect with your heart space. And then see how a beautiful, bright, white, radiant crystal is radiating its light from your heart space. It is radiating all the way to the front, all the way to your left, all the way around at your back, and see it radiating at your right. Allow it to radiate fully towards the sky and also all the way down to the earth. And then connect with this diamond and allow it to radiate fully as it feels comfortable and nourishing to you in this moment, which can vary. And then connect a moment and set an intention for this session. So what do you want to learn? What do you want to ignite? What do you want to release, transform, or shift? And take a moment to center this intention in your heart space and allow it to radiate out all the way through and around you. And then when you're ready, feel your feet on the ground, wiggle your toes a little. Take a nice deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, and open your eyes when you are ready. Welcome everyone. So now I'm going to introduce you to Tash. Welcome Tash. It is so great to have you here.
It's an absolute pleasure and honor to be here. I love the subject that you're bringing forward with this. So thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, we're both actually very excited about this. So before we dive in, can you take a moment to introduce yourself to the people so they know who you are and what you do on the planet?
So I am Tash Mitch. I'm the founder of the Institute of Energy Work, and this is a collective of energy workers that have come together to basically create beautiful offerings that shift humanity on a number of different levels, and they're all digital offerings. I also am a Kundalini yoga teacher. I mix life and business coaching with energy work primarily, basically. And energy work is what really, really excites me, connecting to the animation within us, the subtle elements within us, and how that actually then replicates itself and creates the worlds that we have around us. I think once we're in connection with the blueprint of our energy, we're able to really understand how this creates manifestations in our world, basically.
I love that. So before we dive in, because we're going to talk about actually the soul mastery and around the first 3 chakras, we decided, well, can you share a little bit more, and maybe you can weave it in about the energy imprint and about what is your own energy template, or can you share a little bit more about that?
So basically, the first premise is that we're physical beings. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience, right? So we're basically infinite, boundless beings that have actually come into a physical manifestation in order to actually have an experience of being on planet Earth. So when you start with that premise, you understand that there's so much more to you than this physical entity. And so there's a sense of really starting to connect into that multidimensional aspect of who you are, and also that limitless aspect of who you are, and bringing that into form, however it needs to come into form. Each of us, because we're limitless beings having a human experience, each of us has a particular constellation or a particular way that energy has been filtered and comes through us as an individual. And so then it becomes being conscious and aware of your particular filter and your particular way of radiating and shining energy. Because when we speak of, say, like the thumbprint of source, or when we speak of that element of the all that is individualized into the one that represents you, is that appreciation of what that really is. What is that representation? Yeah.
I love that. Like, and because it's such a, like you explain it in such a like expanded way more than, you should appreciate yourself. Like, this is like different thinking. You just give the opportunity to see it from a whole, like, bigger perspective. And I think many times it makes it easier for people then to hone into the appreciation, right? Because otherwise it's too in their face. So I love that. So can you share more about the importance, right? So why are these three chakras, the lower ones, so important at this moment and in like creating, manifesting?
So we're in a time and space at the moment, which is the information age, and the technological age. And so there's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of data. There's a lot of information. I mean, basically, there was a point where you were limited to the library in terms of finding pieces of data and information. Now you can find whatever you want, wherever you want, however you want, and it's there in multitudes, right? So it's become really now about the embodiment. I think there was a period in our evolution of humanity where we were compiling information, which is where the age of knowledge was so, and scholars and everything like that was so necessary for the compilation of information. Where we are now is the assimilation of information. It's like literally learning how to learn. The wisdom of learning, and also the embodiment piece, basically living your experience, your learned experience. So rather than, from the sort of head upwards, like the bottom of the chin upwards, where we would basically be this talking heads, no connection to the body. Now it's really about filtering that down, so this becomes our lived experience. And this is the next part of our evolutionary stage, is the embodiment piece. And as a result, we are talking about our bodies, and the lower half of our bodies it tends to be areas where, as humanity, we haven't been living in comfortably, because we've been so much in the upper realms. We've been in that thought process, in that kind of thinking mode, in that accumulating intelligent talking heads mode, assimilating information mode, right? So now we're coming to that place where we need to actually bring that into our bodies. And so the first three energy centers, which starts at the bottom of the feet and moves all the way up to the rib cage, that literally brings you really into your embodiment phase. It brings you into your body, basically. And so that's why it's so important. And as a result of that, there's a lot of debris in that area, in those areas as well. We've gathered stuff on a subconscious level that we perhaps maybe haven't looked at or haven't communicated with. And so the bringing consciousness into these areas is also shifting out and assimilating what serves and what doesn't serve, so that we can actually stand with empowerment on the planet and on the earth and the ground beneath us, basically.
Because it's interesting, right? It's very grounded, right? And then because when people like used to talk about grounding, I never got it because I was very like high, so I didn't. It's integration. It feels like an integration of your being in your experience on the world, and
Yes.
I found it very thrilling that you exactly use the same stuff. So how can people do that? Because that is really like, it's one thing to get it with your mind, but to grasp it, the concept, but how to literally, I call it clicking, right? So how do people click it into place? Because I know the people listening are so looking for like stepping into their mission. They can feel it calling them, but they just don't make this like final connection kind of thing. So can you share about that?
So I'll give you like three snapshots. That's probably the best way, right? So the first snapshot would be your solar plexus and your navel simultaneously. So the navel point is a really important point within the human body. It's a point that tethered us to our mothers when we were in the womb. We recognize that point on a subconscious level as our literal attachment to our physicality, because before we actually were born into the world, our attachment to the physical earth was through the navel, and that has not been forgotten on a subconscious level. So it really is where we actually have established our sense of identity and our representation of who we are in the world. The solar plexus area also is that place where we radiate and we emanate our sense of who we are in the world. A lot of times, us human beings lose a lot of energy from our solar plexus, and we do it in a very natural kind of way because it's just what energy does. So as soon as we decide that we need to go out into the world and seek and find the answer, and we're looking out in the world for the answer, we're literally radiating energy that is going out like a search missile into it's kind of like, I see them as kind of these like lines of energy that go from the solar plexus out into the world, searching for the answer of the thing that you're looking for. And in that same time, it's like distracting you from your own energy. Is your energy is pouring outwards, right? And so there's something about actually bringing that understanding in, that yes, there are elements on the outside that offer reflections, but those reflections always have to come home to self. You know, we live in a world where everybody wants to say to us that this is the answer, and these are the three things that we're doing wrong, and this is the right way to do it. And so basically we have to then be able to assimilate that information and bring it back to self and bring it back to home and really own that as our own. So it's a coming back to self and coming back to home. The second element is below the navel but above the pelvis. This is the area of our creativity and our creator zone. It's the area that really tethers us to our sense of connecting on a very intimate level with life. How much of life are we allowing in, and also how much of ourselves are we allowing to connect with life? And we begin to sort of create a conscious relationship from that area with how that relationship is going. And then the third element is the bottom of the feet and how literally we're connecting to the earth beneath us. Very often when we're unstable, when we're not grounded, when we're feeling like we're not in our bodies and we're very in our talking head mode, we're not connecting to the feet. And yet instantaneously, when we drop our attention to the bottom of our feet and we bring our attention just to the bottom of the feet and how it's touching the earth, we immediately bring ourselves to grounding. We immediately bring ourselves right into our bodies. So those are the sort of three snapshots, basically.
And I love the simplicity, right? Because sometimes people think they have to drop into big meditations. You don't, right? It's really available for you just to take your attention, because that's really where it happens, right? The attention, the intention, the attention, if you drop them to your feet, it's done, right? Yeah. So can you share a little bit more about that?
So one of the things that I do is basically, if I'm in a situation where I feel, and we all do, we're human. So, I mean, there's no judgment. You will find yourself at some point where you're like, okay, I'm not in my body. I am feeling like I'm intimidated, for example, or I'm feeling, just basically like in that search mode, so I'm outside of myself. Whenever I recognize that and I put my attention to my feet, very often my feet are hovering. And what I mean is that I could be standing or I could be sitting, but they're not quite on the earth, you know. And it's very interesting when you start to pay attention to what your feet are doing. You'll realize that in certain moments you're either standing more on one foot than the other foot, so that you're basically unbalanced literally in the way that you're standing. And if you're sitting, very often you're not planted. There's something about your feet that is just hovering just above the ground. They're not planted. So then there's something about breathing and coming back into your central line. And for me, that would mean putting both feet on the ground equally and coming into what you call mountain pose, or that stance of like groundedness. And likewise, if I'm sitting, it's just coming into the bottom of the feet and just allowing them to connect to the earth beneath me and breathing into that, so that connection is established again. And in that moment, there's a connection instantaneously with the body. And just something on the solar plexus and the navel point, because this is a really, really beautifully simple but so powerful point, right? A lot of times when we're in that place of not feeling confident and we're lacking self-esteem, like I said, there's a lot of energy that's coming out of the solar plexus at that point. We find ourselves caving. If we want to come back into center and reestablish that link, all we need to do is to connect to the navel and pull that belly button in, so we establish a kind of strength in that area. It doesn't have to be like a slam back, but if it's strong enough that you feel the muscles of the abdominals pulling in, immediately it brings you into your line of empowerment. And if you want to feel confident, that's the way to do it. And you could do it anywhere. It's like, for example, if I find myself on something like public transport, so I'm on a train or something like that, and there's a lot of people, and maybe I'm slightly getting agitated, or I feel a little bit like, bringing my attention into navel point, pulling that in, immediately you establish your presence and you establish your sense of empowerment where you're standing, basically. So that sense of self is reestablished in the mind.
I love that. It's like you can literally feel like the little pull, right? It's just a little, you can do it, it's 1 second. Yes. And so obviously, because you have great practical examples, do you have one for the other, like for the second one as well?
For the
creativity.
Yeah, for the creativity. It's interesting, right? Because this is our zone of intimacy. You know, the sacral and that area is our zone of intimacy. For the woman, it's the vagina, and for the man, it's basically it's a genital area, and it's an area that we are very private about. Obviously, it's an area that it represents intimacy. It represents kind of hiding away in for a lot of women, and even for men as well. And sometimes we don't connect to that area from a place of love and from a place of honoring and from a place of it. And when I say that, I mean like when people are making love, etc., like that, there's a connection then. But in your everyday average day, like basically if you're connecting to that area, it's not something that a lot of people tend to do on the fly like that. But that area holds a lot of our creative energy, and it also holds a lot of the energy that we have when we're connecting in any kind of intimate, and it's not even always sexual, it could be your connection to your work even, you know, anything that we have an intimate connection with our energy merging into something else, that area is always active. So there's a sense of really coming into that. And one of the ways is just establishing a connection with the channel there, the vaginal channel if you're a woman, and the womb space. A lot of work can be done in the womb space as what you would call like the cave, that actually we can actually bring, if we were working on a project or something like that, we can almost bring the essence of that energy into that area as an incubator of some description, and allow that area to actually formulate the creativity.
Yeah. So it will be lit. I love that, right? So you can put your hands probably on
Yeah.
that area first, and then like with your imagination, get the, because it is intimate, right? I also say sensuality, like creativity, sexuality, it's all of that. And then you can just like with the intention go inward and allow it to be like almost nurtured and be like a baby, right?
Absolutely.
That's like very good.
Absolutely. And for the men, there's something very similar there as well, because it's your zone of creativity, you know? And so there's a sense of really connecting with that yourself from a loving place. It doesn't have to be sexual. It could be just like cupping and holding, but it's that sort of sense of connecting from a really loving space and actually connecting with it from that place of it being the radiance of your creativity, basically.
Those words are powerful. The radiance, like just like even for the men, because they don't have the womb, so maybe they get like distracted. Just think about the radiance of your creativity and just pinpoint like the second chakra or somewhere below that, right? It's like it really holds a lot. So are you already ready to dive into the quick meditation, right? Because we talked about that. This is really good stuff. Love it.
Yes. All right, so if we come into breath and coming into breathing from the diaphragm, and just making a connection with the heart space. The heart space is the gateway between the seen and the unseen, the physical and the subtle. It's also that gateway that when it says yes, complete and utter yes, everything flows, no matter how challenging. If it says no, it's like you're dragging a boulder behind you. So there's always a sense of, first of all, coming into the heart space and establishing that link with the heart space, because the heart's integrity affects everything. Just witnessing the heart space as a light that as we place our consciousness and our awareness onto it, it just goes stronger and brighter. And just witness that light beginning to radiate until it moves downwards and touches the solar plexus, that area above the navel but below the rib cage. And just establishing that link with light, with your mind's eye and light. And just as a sort of aside here, light is an illuminator, but it's also a very wise and conscious type of energy. It's an energy that actually has its own frequency and its own level of wisdom attached to it. And as soon as light comes into the mind space, it immediately brings illumination, and it brings expansion, and it brings radiance. That radiance is something that's seen, and it basically opens spaces out. And so when we work with light in this way, we're literally bringing that level of expansion, illumination, and opening of space. Just seeing that light as a living entity with a very potent level of wisdom that is very illuminating. Just allowing that illumination to come into the solar plexus. Just breathing and witnessing. And just moving so that light goes down into your sacral area, breathing and witnessing. Just bringing that illumination, that wisdom, that radiance into the sacral area, so that your whole abdominal area now is lighting up. And just witnessing that light moving down into the pelvic bowl. So your entire pelvic region is lighting up and radiating, illuminating. And now just witnessing that light moving down through your thighs, your knees, your calves, your ankles, your feet, and making a connection with the earth beneath you. And just another piece of information here. We all have a template in the earth that is our template, and it's global. So when we place our feet on the earth from a divine conscious connection, And we allow that connection to connect to the divinity in the earth itself, our template immediately lights up. And it's one of the reasons why when we travel the world, for example, we can travel the world from a place where we understand ourselves to be, wherever it is that we go, we're at home. That can be one of the ways of journeying the earth. Another way of journeying the earth is you arrive to certain places and you feel that there's a deja vu, there's an element that this place is your place, it's your home, it's your piece of earth. And both of these can happen together, you know, they can happen, that both truths can live together. The one where it's the whole globe is your home, and the other one where there's a particular piece of earth that's your home. But as soon as you actually place your feet on planet Earth with that level of awareness, you immediately are tapping into your own template in the earth crust itself. Just making that connection. Because ultimately, when we speak about grounding, we can speak about grounding in the body, but the body belongs to the earth. Every element of your body, the minerals in your body, the bones, the muscle, the blood, everything was given to you by the earth itself. And so the earth recognizes your body like no other. And when you bring divinity to that connection, you immediately establish a level of power within yourself as a result of that. This is really high potency, high caliber grounding. All right. And just bringing your attention right back up into the bottom of your feet and just breathing and just witnessing what's going on within your body at the moment. And also just noticing with this that you didn't have to go anywhere outside of yourself to establish this link. This link is always available to you as your own divine conscious connection within your own self. A connection that is established in the heart and illuminates through the body. Okay. And when you're ready, just open your eyes.
That was good.
Mm.
I saw very like kind of orange, like yellow, very warm, like almost like the sun, right? Very warm, like nourishing. And it was interesting because the third one illuminated very quickly. And the second one, I thought, oh, you need a little bit like, oh, I thought you need a little attention. And then like when you talks about the pelvis, which I always say, like, it's so fascinating how we're so many similarities. So, and then I could feel, like really feel it. And then what happened was, it was like, because you said like, notice what happens. And I could feel, not from inside, but outside of me, this like kind of radiance going on as well. So I was wondering like what you noticed that to be. It was like in the same color, but it was very like not only moving in, like radiating in my body, but also outside of my body, like almost being nourished with this beautiful like energy going, swirling around me.
There's something that happens when we work with light in this particular way, where it disintegrates the space between the physicality of matter that's so strong and the energetic element of ourselves. So those two elements start to become one. And so when you're speaking about the radiance of energy around you, it's ultimately just you, you know, but it's more of you that's being made known to you, basically.
It's more like the expanded version you're playing with, right? I really love that. So if you would give the audience like one important thing about this, other than what we talked about, what would that be? Like, what would the thing be you really want for people to like embrace or like to integrate or to get?
It will be a reiteration of the navel, because I cannot say enough about the navel point and that's establishing that link. Basically, the world needs us to be who we are, you know? The world doesn't necessarily need us to try and be somebody else or to try and replicate ourselves or to try and fit in. The world needs us to establish and be strong enough to understand that we are enough as we are, and then to really build that relationship with ourselves so that we can stand in our power and radiate our divinity from who we actually are. And the navel holds a real strong part of that story for us, right? So if we can keep coming back to that level of coming back to ourselves, we bring such a gift to the world as a result of that, you know? And so if there's one thing that I would leave behind is that one, is basically come back to yourself. And the way to do that is to come back and establish that link with your navel point and with your solar plexus.
Pulling it in, right?
Yeah,
Just pulling it in. And we can do it all day, every day. Like, it's very easy practice. I love the practicality of that, because people can use, like, when you're in a meeting, when you're with your children, whenever, wherever you are, you can just pull back. Whenever you feel out of alignment, just pull back, kind of.
And there's in Kundalini yoga, there's a root lock. And to make that even more powerful, if you pull the navel in and at the same time you pull up the sexual organs and the anus at the same time, you literally harness the energy of the first three chakras, and that really aligns you in the place that you're in. But just pulling the navel in itself could do something quite amazing, because it just brings you back into reestablishing your empowered stance, basically.
So you gave us something extra.
Yeah.
You can also do that, right? So for the advanced, when you pulled it in, just pull the bottom in as well.
Yeah.
And I kind of saw like a visual doing that. I could see like almost like a laser going down in the earth.
Yeah.
See the light, like if I do that, well, obviously I'm a little bit different maybe, but I could see that and just lasering it down into like being very like, oh, I was thought that is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're establishing your link with yourself in that moment. And so, yes, then the link with the earth is beautiful, because you're coming from integrity.
Yeah. Who you are. The world needs you. I love that as well, that you said, like, you don't have to be anyone else. Many times people still try to do that. You will never be good at being someone else. You're perfect at being you, right? So, yeah. And obviously you have an offer. So can you like share a little bit more about that?
So basically, I've done this over a number of years now, and this particular year is going to come out in February, but it's an offering called Create. And what we do is bring a community together, and it's around something that wants to be created in your life. So it could be a project, it could be something to do with your work, it could be something that you yourself you're establishing. When I've done this particular offering before, people have been bringing forward business ideas that they kind of like was milling around in the background, and suddenly they're doing it in community, or establishing a yoga practice, or whatever the thing is, right? And it's over the course of 30 days. And there's a sense of basically coming together in community and being given tools and elements that will allow you to shift anything that's in the way of you manifesting from a place of clarity and from a place of groundedness. So the whole idea behind Create is around manifestation and bringing form into something that's really tangible. So you get to choose right from the get-go, and then the 30 days we spend together, it's really harnessing the energy to bring that into form. And doing it in community is quite powerful, because you realize that you're not on your own.
Yeah, so it's not just like a digital course only, like it's really being in, because that's different, right? Many times offerings are just courses, like classes you can watch, which is great, but this is actually an actual like organic experience with someone, with you, right?
Yes, exactly. And there's an element where you can, communicate with the community, and almost like use the community as a way to journal what your experience is as you're going forward. So we all get to share from ourselves, each other, and the reflections that we're offering each other, basically.
I love that, because I like every time like the collective, we talked about it as well. The collective is so important. You do not need to do it all on your own.
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly not even like very like helpful to do everything on your own, but being in with like-minded people, and it gets to be so easy as we can connect online with each other, like from all over the world, so you don't have to wait like until you find the right people in your home.
Yeah.
I love this. I really love this, and I really appreciate the offer as well, because it's different, right? It gives people a different opportunity. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to offer it.
And
Yeah.
also, thank you for being here. It was really good. I mean, so practical and great. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's an absolute pleasure. And I cannot tell you how much I love Soul Mastery and what you're bringing forward. I think it's amazing. So well done. Well done.
Thank you so much. So, and thank you to the audience for watching and tuning in, and dive into the offer. And I will talk to you all tomorrow. Bye.